Brian Flores interviewing with several other teams. So he's going to interview with the Cardinals. Listening to what the player says. This is a quote from Chris Wormley, Steelers defensive line, direct quote. If you see what he did from being 32nd in run defense before he came in to top 10 in run defense, he had a big part in that. I think teams would love to have a guy like that, end quote. Tells me everything I need to know. Now, I think the Steelers are lucky that with the Browns defensive coordinator vacancy filled by Jim Schwartz, Joe Woods is out of the picture in Cleveland. I think the Steelers dodged a bullet there. I think Brian Flores is going to get a lot of interest in other teams. And it's a double-edged sword for me because I think about it. Are you just interviewing Brian Flores to fulfill the Rooney quota? Or are you actually considering him? And as much as I think he should actually be considered, I want him on this Steelers coaching staff for the 2023 season. So I have mixed thoughts about the whole thing.
Yeah, well, Coach Brian Flores, when you got a former head coach sitting as a, assistant defense coordinator / linebacker coach, it takes a lot of pressure off your DC and Coach Tomlin as well, because we all know when Coach Brian Flores was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, one thing they had was a defense. Turnovers. And we didn't like at first when Brian Flores was getting rid of a lot of good players. Thanks for giving us Minka, Coach Brian, a lot. And he was getting these first round draft picks, but little did we know he was making a hell of adjustments, and he damn near built that roster. So yes, Coach Daniels have that roster now for the Miami Dolphins, but for that foundation, Coach Brian Flores has built that. So when you get a coach like that, who is the head of a organization and knows how to adjust and know how to move chess pieces throughout an organization, now you got them on your staff. That's a lot of value. And yes, just selfishly speaking, Mark, I feel just like how you feel. I hope he doesn't go anywhere. I hope he stays with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, on Coach Brian Flores' behalf, I hope Coach Brian Flores get an opportunity to be a head coach again on his behalf, or a defensive coordinator on his behalf. But yeah, selfishly speaking, when you have a guy like that in the building, you want to keep them around as long as possible.
Speaking of Kenny Pickett as well, it was Brian Flores who he credited with helping him with 2-minute drill and 2-minute drill execution as well, in terms of what you need to do in late game situations to put your team in a position to win. So it's not just, okay, we wanted the front seven short up, we wanted the run defense short up this past season. That happened. It's the influence he's having throughout the locker room and other players in the Steelers building, in the facility.
Yeah, I mean, he was a former head coach, so he understands offense and defense. And for Kenny Pickett, for a quarterback to talk about a linebacker coach like that, that says like, okay, coach really knows what he's doing. So basically you got two head coaches. You got Coach T, who's a legendary future Hall of Fame head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you got a former head coach and from Miami, Coach Brian Flores, sitting on the same staff. So when you got an offensive guy talking about a defense, when you have an offensive rookie talking about a defensive staff coach, that says a lot, again, just about the value Coach Brian Flores is bringing to the table, because Kenny Pickett could have said anything about an offensive guy. So the fact that he said something on the defensive side, he knows, and the organization knows, and Coach Brian Flores knows how important 2-minute situations are, because when Kenny Pickett get in 2-minute situations in the game, nothing rattles him. It's like he wakes up. So shout out to Coach Brian Flores for your sake. Unselfishly speaking, Coach Brian, I hope you do get the job you want, but selfishly speaking, I hope your ass don't go nowhere.
Ike, we love Tomlin on this show as well. And it's not just about Tomlin. Take this outside of the other 31 franchises in the league. Speaks volumes about him to be comfortable enough to allow his coaches to do his job, Ike, because there are other coaches in the league that would say, no, I want to get credit for this, or no, you're overstepping your ground, stay in your lane. When you have 16 seasons, you don't have a losing season. I think it allows you to do that, but you credit Mike Tomlin to where, Ike, you always tell me it's about we, not me. This is just yet another example of that.
Man, we had Coach T on the show, and that's one of the questions I asked Coach T. You know, why did he feel like he should have given Coach Brian Flores a lifeline out of all the things that was going on off the field? And Coach T said, why not? You know, he's saying the same thing Kenny Pickett's saying. He's saying the same thing you and I are saying about him. Like, if I can get a coach like that, a former head coach who can help. My pride is all the way at home. I ain't even bring my pride to the front door. So, but you gotta be very secure of yourself to make moves like Coach T is making, because it's a lot of insecurities in the NFL. You don't want to feel threatened. So say when you're at that level, but Coach T like, man, it's whatever. I'm Coach T. When Coach T wake up in the morning, he just be like, man, I'm Coach T. So I can hire whoever I want to hire. So it's just saying a lot about Coach T on his unselfishness as a person, as a coach, as a businessman. But at the same time, it's showing like how much secure he is in himself.